Hello, folks, and welcome back. This is part two of how do we take back our sovereignty. So, for those of you who didn't see part one, it was focusing on the problem, and now this is focusing on the solutions. So, simply speaking, any of you missed part one, just go to my website, larrybeller.com, and you'll find part one there, and you can watch it, and then you'll come to this part, and you won't have missed a single solitary thing. So, with that, let's dig into this. And now we're talking about the solutions that are going to ensure that we get our sovereignty back, which has been stolen from us. All right, so let's go on down to the next slide and dig into the details. All right, so we're going to talk really effectively about restoring our republic. Well, wait a minute. No, we're a democracy. No, we're not. We're a republic. Well, what's the difference? Well, they tell us we're a democracy, but our founding fathers said, no, 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 no. Democracies always fail and they end in chaos because of what? Because there's always angst within the constituency of the nation. Why? Because basically there's a war between those who are willing to work and those who aren't willing to work. And it's a majority rule. And so those people who want to have those handouts are always out there pushing for more and more and more and more freebies. And that creates angst within the nation. So we are not a democracy. Our founding fathers called democracy mobocracy because they always ended in mob rule. And oftentimes in current times, they basically slide into communist or a dictatorship. So we're a republic. And we're going to talk about this in detail later on, but I'll just give you the definition right now. A republic is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. So with that, let's go on down and let's break this down a little bit, and we'll talk about. Now, remember, you have to go back and watch part one. So how do we fix it? Most of part one was how we've lost our sovereignty based on one particular component, illegal immigration. We've lost it in a lot of ways. So that's really what we're focusing on. So how do we fix that problem with illegal immigration? Border security equals national security. A nation that doesn't have a border has no nation to be sovereign over. And that's the situation we're in now. We had no border at all for the entire time that Biden was in. But now Trump has closed the border, but we still have two problems. One, we have 10 to 20 million illegal immigrants, many of which who are hostile to America, that we have to get out. And our current Democratic politicians are trying to do everything they can to keep us from getting them out. Even the most hostile gang members, they want to keep us from getting out of the country. And then we've recently found out that there are massive tunnel systems under California and New York, and that the belief is that those that came here with ill intent didn't come across the border and catch and release, but came under the border and have been basically inserted into locations within the United States to presumably at some time be called on to create false flag events all across this nation. So immigration is a very serious problem. Take away so how do we get them out of here? Take away their invitation. So let's just give you an example. Let's say I get invited to a wedding, and let's say it's in Europe, and I can't afford a ticket to go to Europe in a hotel. But now if they send me an invitation, says, Larry, Mr. Ballard, we want you to come to our wedding. Please find an enclosed and all expenses paid hotel reservation and an all expenses paid ticket, and we're looking forward to having you. I'm on that plane the next day. But if I have to come up with $5,000-$10,000, I can't go. So here's the real simple answer to this part of the problem. No entitlements, no subsidies of any kind. So now the invitation is taken away. We're not financing their way anymore. And no access to public schools. If they have children and they can't get their kids in the school system, they're not going to want to come in the first place. And if they take that right away from them, they're going to want to self-deport. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to create a situation, since we've now basically got the border closed, where we can get as many of these people to self-deport as possible. So what else? No access to medical services. So what I'm proposing, and this is me, this is not something coming from our government, is that if we get illegal immigrants that say show up at a hospital, which is costing us a fortune, humanitarianly speaking, we need to treat them. But then we need to process them and deport them out of this country. And basically no driver's license and no IDs. So if they can't work, if they're not getting entitlements, if they have no means of support, if their children can't get an education and they can't get medical attention, then they're not going to stay. It's that simple. They're going to be forced to go back to where they came. So that's what I propose. And if we go to this next slide, what we're going to find out is some things that Donald Trump is proposing. And that first one on the list, Trump will use Article 2 powers to enact the following reforms. And this first one is really important. New voter registration rolls. So what am I talking about? Basically, if you've been watching the news, you've probably heard this. We have millions, apparently, of people in this country are 120 and 130 years old, and somehow miraculously, untold numbers of people have gotten up out of their graves and gone and voted. And then there's other people that they vote. And they go have a hamburger at McDonald's and go vote someplace else. And then they hop in their car or a bus and somebody takes them someplace else and they vote. So what Donald Trump has determined is the voter registration rolls are so contaminated that we need to start over, completely start over, have registration drives and start over and get a clean list that basically takes all of that angst and control out of the voters so we can get an honest vote, and then mandatory voter IDs. And I'm going to talk about an idea of mine regarding that as we go on to one of the other slides. And basically all the stuff that was inflicted on us during COVID so that they could steal that election, they have to be overturned. Authentication for absentee ballots. Just can't send it in. And very few, primarily for those people who are in the diplomatic service or in the military who are out of the country, or people who have valid health issues, are the only ones that can vote with an absentee ballot, and then it has to be authenticated. Get rid of those drop boxes. There's no security for those drop boxes. Get rid of the paper, go to paper ballots, because supposedly where Donald Trump is claiming that the election machines were tampered with. And he said, we have it all. We have all the proof that the election was stolen, but he never got his day in court. Why? Go back to the first episode and you'll find out that they have appointed all kinds of judges to see to it that his evidence was never heard in court. But it's going to be, folks. We're at a pivotal point now, and what we're going to see with what's happening right now is disclosures that are going to be coming out showing that Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, the Bushes are in fact enemies of the United States of America. And we're going to get irrefutable evidence. We're going to get video. We're going to get audio. We're going to get a mountain of whistleblowers. And what's that going to do? That's going to lead to other cases, maybe the Brunson case coming out. And once and for all, we're going to find out that the second run for Donald Trump for presidency was probably stolen. And we're also going to find out, if we do our homework, we're going to find out that the same tactics that he used to steal an election in the United States, the CIA and MI6 and what's Israel's CIA called? I can't remember right this second. Anyway, they basically all work together for the interest of not the people of their nations, but for the interest of the global financial elite. And they have controlled and manipulated so many things and taken away basically our rights. So the last thing in this list is same-day results. Remember last time, there was a water line that busted, and so on and so on. So it's always a swing state, a very important state. So they're giving themselves enough time to create or recount enough ballots to swing that state to where they want. All that has to change. So basically, new voter registrations, mandatory voter IDs, authentication for absentee ballots, no more drop boxes, paper ballots, and same-day results. And that gives us election integrity. For the first time, probably in 100 years, I'm going to be showing you evidence in the coming weeks that starting with McKinley, that's over 100 years ago, they have either stolen or at least tampered with every presidential election that we have had. And we're going to find out that some 71 other nations have had their elections stolen. Oh, that other agency is Mossad. So basically, the security agencies in Britain and the United States and in Israel have all worked to steal elections across the whole planet. Let's go to the next slide and we'll break this down. And now we're looking at what? At solutions, right? And so basically voter integrity. This is on me. And this is probably going to bring some heat. So I don't think Donald Trump could propose this, but I think it's crucial. Basically, what the global financial elite want to do, and this immigration is a vital part of that, is create absolute division. They want Republicans against Democrats, blacks against whites, whites against Hispanics, people of one denomination against another denomination. And we have to stop it, because if we go down this road much longer, we're going to just always and forever be divided. And a house divided cannot stand. Basically, God wants us to live together in peace and harmony. So here's my proposal. I, as an American citizen, have a star on my driver's license, and that said they've checked me out, and I'm who I say I am, and I can travel within the United States and move about freely. Well, here's what I'm proposing. And I know there's going to be a lot of people out there that don't like what I'm about to say, but I believe we have responsibility, because we have allowed for decades people to come into this country illegally, and we've let them stay here. And why did we do it? Because we wanted them to pick our vegetables, and we wanted them to wash our cars and cut our grass and do all the things that we didn't want to do. So we used them. We were culpable in allowing them to be here because it benefited us. So here's what I say. We need to go back and we need to look at the recent incursion, which had ill intent, and basically from when Biden got into office is when the real influx began. So let's just take that as the possible date for what I'm about to say. So what I'm saying is, anybody who's here who came in illegally but came in before 2019, if they can prove they've been here, that they've been working, that they've not been on Medicare or Medicaid or any kind of entitlements, that they've not done any crimes, that they can apply for and get a G put on their driver's license, which says they're grandfathered. Now, those may not be the actual criteria. I'm talking off the top of my head, but I think we need a policy that gives those who have been here for decades, who have had children called the dreamers. We cannot tear those people apart from their families. We'll have absolute social chaos in this country. So we need to give them a means to say, if they get stopped because they're Hispanic or from whatever nationality, and they can show a driver's license that says they've been vented, then they don't have to be worried about being deported. We're looking at those people who came in here, who were funded by the NGOs, by the global financial elite, who were sent here to collapse America, with a massive volume of people coming in with ill intent and coming in with absolutely no means of taking care of themselves. So think that over, folks. You may like it, you may not like it. Don't put it on Donald Trump. It's on me. I believe that we cannot afford to have a nation divided. God doesn't want that. God wants us to stand together, arm in arm. He wants to have us be what? Brothers in arms. He wants to have us understand this very important thing, that to harm another is to harm ourselves. We have some culpability here in allowing these people to come in. I'm going to go to the next slide now. And this takes us to what? To the financial crisis that we have. Basically, we have to have a reset. And the global elite want to take us out of the current fiat system and just put it into another one. But that's not what God wants. God wants us to restore America. He wants us to have a commodity-backed system. And where does the wealth of a nation come from? It's so simple, folks. It's not even funny. You have natural resources. You turn them into manufactured goods, you sell them, that turns into money, i.e., revenue, which you use to run the country. And so, what Donald Trump is saying is our principal revenue stream, our manufacturing, has intentionally been stripped away from us, and he's going to get it back. So, when I was a kid in the 50s, what was everything about? About patriotism, about God, about family, about morality. It was about the American economy built in America and by America. And folks, that's exactly what Donald Trump is standing for. And that's exactly what the Democrats are standing against. So that is so simple. It's so basic. The solutions are right before our eyes, and they're never, ever, ever complicated. Now, when I go to the next slide, we're going to break down something that we talked about briefly in the part one, and that is, what is a republic? What is a republic? So here we are. A republic is a government of the people, by the people, for the people, as I said before. But it has certain requirements to function. America was the first republic ever. It was considered to be the grand experiment because it put control in the hands of not a monarchy, not a dictatorship, but the people. And so to do that, the people had to be moral and godly. They had to be able to read, meaning they had to be educated. That's why the first thing that our founding fathers did was found Harvard, and they had to have an informed public. So they had pamphleteers. And we, at one time, when I was a kid, we had newscasters that actually gave you the news. But now we have people who give us propaganda. So we have to get rid of that. And a public free of self-interest. What's that mean? It goes back to what Benjamin Franklin said. Basically he's saying that the minute those least willing or least able to work find out that they can get money from the public coffer, then we're going to go back to the basis of what a democracy is, which is a mobocracy, which is where people vote for what's in their own vested interest instead of what's in the best interest for the nation, and a public that puts national interest first. That's what we have to have: a moral and godly people, an educated people, an informed people, formed with the truth, a public free of self-interest, and a public that puts the national interest first. And how do we lose it? By giving free stuff away, just like what we're doing with all those illegal immigrants coming in here. And we're giving them what? We've got military people sleeping on the streets, and we're putting illegal immigrants in five-star hotels, and we're giving them credit cards, and we're giving them phones, and we're giving them health care, and we're driving the nation into absolute financial collapse. He who controls money controls the world. And that's an assault on our government and on our finances and our economic system, driving us into a point where our $37 trillion national debt is about to collapse. Let's go on down, and I'm going to give you the formal definition of what a republic is. America has lost its republic and become a democracy. So first, let's look at a democracy. The formal definition: a democracy is a government based on majority rule, where those least willing or able to work demand handouts from a government that what? Intentionally doles out handouts as a form of what? Control and enslavement. So what is a republic? It is simply a government of the people, by the people, for the people, where the government is the servant of the people, not the other way around. That's why, folks, you need to buy my book. That's why you need to know history. Now, these next two slides are crucially important. I suggest that you either take a screenshot or get your camera out, or freeze the screen and take notes. This is all outlined in my first book in details, but this is what we need to know. It's 12 simple things that if we can restore these, we've got it. Hands down, America is positioned to be the greatest nation in the world. Once again, it's positioned to do what God intended us to do, to be that light on the hill that shines the rays of freedom throughout the entire world. So here we go. We just finished talking about a republic, a government of the people, by the people, for the people. So we have to return to a republic, and all the things that enable a republic must be restored. We must have closed borders, which we've been talking about for the last two shows, and the military as a deterrent, not as a way to financially collapse this, where, as George Bush said, the Iraq war was going to be a generational war lasting 20 to 30 years. What's Trump do? He says, we got a problem. We've got a nation who wants to have a nuclear weapon that is hostile to us. We can't allow that. You go in, you bomb the heck out of them, you end the deterrence, and you come back and basically say, oh, now, by the way, how about we talk about establishing peace? Trump is all about establishing peace. That's what God wants. He wants us to live together in peace and harmony, all of his children around the entire world. And we need a legal system that's based on what? The Constitution, not precedent. So these judges that are put in by corrupt politicians write laws, pass verdicts that basically are based on precedent that is not based on our Constitution. So what we need to have happen is go back to our original Constitution that put the power in the hands of the people. Now that has ballooned into a 2,700-page Constitution that is full of laws, all of which, or almost all of which, are not to protect the rights of we the people, but they're there to create a global leadership that creates a global dictatorship that has the intent, as we have now found out, of committing genocide of about 7 billion of us. If for those of you, I'm sure most of you know by now, at least the ones watching this show, what the Georgia Guidestone says. They want to reduce global population to 500 million people. So these people are heinous. Patriotism, a source of national allegiance and unity. So back when I was a kid, you saw the American flag, everybody, and people were proud to be Americans, but they've stripped it away. They make us believe that we are these heinous individuals. No, the Chinese people are not bad. The Russian people are not bad. The American people are not bad. Most of the people of this world have feelings for other people. They're humane. It's the corrupt global financial elite that controls literally every nation in the world. And why do I say that? Because Stalin said that establishing a central bank is 90% of establishing communism, and almost, I think, all the nations and the major nations in the world, except possibly Russia, have a central bank. So they have no sovereignty. We're all controlled by a shadow government that's intent is to end all borders and to end all sovereignty and to commit global genocide. So let's see where I was here. Property taxes. So one of the principal reasons that we came to America, so we could have our freedom of religion, which thanks to the 501Cs and the seminaries, I don't think we have anymore. And we wanted to own property because as serfs in Europe, only the nobility can own property. So we think we own property. So by a raise of hands, all of you out there, if you own a home and you're proud of it, raise your hand. And now comes the bad news. None of you own a home. Why? Because they inserted something called property rights. And since they control the financial system, here's what they do to us. They basically create a financial collapse, 2908, and you lose your job and you can't pay your mortgage or you can't pay your taxes. And the next thing you know, they come and take your house away. And so basically, the truth be, every one of us, you, me, all of us, even if our houses are paid for, we're just renters renting our property from a corrupt government who can take our property away from us virtually anytime they want by creating a set of circumstances that make us unable to either pay our mortgage or our taxes. That's changing, folks. In Florida, they've got legislation that's saying they're getting rid of property tax and they're going to run the schools and they're going to run the state based upon just exactly what our founding fathers intended for us in the first place. When this nation was founded, there was no federal income tax. There was no property tax. There was no tax to get anything. The myriad of different taxes we had didn't exist. We had one tax, a simple sales tax, and Florida is proposing a 12% sales tax, and that's fair because it was unconstitutional to do what? To tax a man based on his labor, because we have no choice on that. That's just pure theft of our labor. But when you've got a sales tax, you've got a choice. You can consume or not consume. There are necessities that you need, but basically you have control over how much taxes you pay. That's the system we're going back to. So let's go on down and we'll finish this up. But these 12 simple things are what's required for a nation to be great, for a nation to be sovereign, and we can take control and get control of every one of these. The next one is a monetary system that's not based on fiat currency. So what is our current system based on? Our global shadow government prints money without one thing backing it. And if you go to corporate law, it says that you can't have a contract if there's not remuneration on both sides. So basically, when they print money that's backed by nothing, it's not legal. And so basically, the Federal Reserve is going to be, we're going to get out of it. As unlikely as that may seem, Donald Trump has told us we're going to go from the Internal Revenue Service, which means the Fed, to the External Revenue Service, which means two things. We will get a lot of our money from trade, uh, which is basically looking at the tariffs that he's trying to get to be fair, equitable trade, and we will get our money from the sale of goods domestically and internationally. And that's what's going to be what runs our economy. And we will not have our money taken from us illegally. There were 6 Supreme Court decisions that said to tax a man's labor is unconstitutional. So what are we going to go to? We're going to get out of that fiat system and we're going to go to God's system, a gold-backed system that's based on gold and silver and lithium and iron and all of our agricultural goods and any commodity you can imagine that cannot be manipulated. So under that system, under God's system, they cannot create inflation or deflation or stagflation or wage suppression or financial collapses because they cannot control and manipulate those things that in and of themselves have inherent value. So we're going to go to a gold-backed system that is God's economic system, natural resources. So they're telling us part of the reason they want to get rid of most of us is because we're consuming too many of their valuable natural resources. They're squandering them. So in coming weeks, I'm going to show you the basis of a new economic system that is not going to squander natural resources. And that's going to change the world, absolutely change it. Trade and commerce. Reciprocal trade, not intentionally losing trade. That's exactly what Trump is pushing with all of the tariffs that he's putting out there. He's not bleeding these nations out. He's saying that you have been bleeding us out. All America wants is a level playing field in the international trading market. And our educational system, remember, that's one of the bases of a republic. So one of the first things Trump did was came in and got rid of the federal education department and changed the definition of a family and got men out of women's sports. So basically, he's taking us back to our core values, and religion and family values is next. Again, he's taking us back to what made America great. We came here for our religious freedom. We came here so we could raise our families in freedom. And the last one, the media. You cannot have a free nation if you are controlled and censored and surveilled constantly. So these are the 12 things. The 12 things. All of everything, all the angst that we have comes down to these 12 simple things that we can demand and we can get our freedom back, and we can have a government that basically is the government that God intended us to have. We can restore the America, which it was said is the shining light on the hill that basically shines out for the entire rest of the world. I'm gonna funnel this down even simpler. If we go to the next slide, I'm going to take that 12 points and I'm going to take it down to 3. So war is used. The first step of slavery. They drive you into a war. They bankrupt you. So what happened in America? We fought the Revolutionary War because we didn't want to be under a central bank from England. Well, we ostensibly won it, meaning we got our freedom, but we went bankrupt. And before Washington was even out of office, we were under that central bank that basically was the reason we fought the war in the first place. And so now get rid of the wars, get rid of the central bank, and give us money that's real money, not fiat money, but money based upon God's system, and basically control manufacturing and trade. And voila, you have a sovereign nation. Oh, one other thing, close the border. So let's go on down. And folks, the good news is we're almost done. But if the elite we're smarter. We might be not be in the position we are. We really are winning. So I love reading Sun Tzu, and Sun Tzu tells you all the things you need to know, and you need to know your enemy as good or better than you know yourself. So this little quote that I'm going to read you is central to what they've done to control us. And what we need to do is do the same thing to them they've done to us. So I'm going to read this slowly. The Council on Foreign Relations. Now, folks, that sounds like it's supposed to be for our benefit, but they are the nation. They're the group that wants to end all borders and have what? End all sovereignty and a global one world government. So the Council on Foreign Relations is the establishment. Not only does it have influence and power in key decision-making positions at the highest level of government. Let's break that down. That means in Washington, D.C., congressmen, senators, presidents. It means they control them. It means that if we really are honest with ourselves, those people are not elected because of the election fraud that occurs, but they're selected, they're groomed, and they're financed, and they're put in office to control us from the top down. And let's go on down. I'm going to read the whole thing again. The Council on Foreign Relations is the establishment. Not only does it have influence and power in key decision-making positions at the highest level of government to apply what? Pressure from above. Pressure from above. But it also uses individuals and groups to do what? Bring pressure from below. Think of community organizing groups. Think of those people who are paid to burn down our cities and to protest. They're paid. Converting the U.S. from a sovereign constitutional republic to a servile member state of a one world dictatorship. So, what does that mean we have to do? It means we have to take our Constitution and get it back, and we have to get rid of the 2,700-page Constitution that was thrust upon us. We have to do just what our Constitution said, take away control from the federal government, which only supposed to have, I think it was 17 designated powers, put the power back in the local and state government, get people who understand what's been done, who are informed, who can meet the definition of what a republic is and the responsibility that we have as members of the republic, and do just exactly what they did to us. We can turn this around and we can play this scenario against them. We can get rid of the fake news. We can get control of the 8 spheres of influence, and we can basically have our freedom. And what does that mean? That means we get control of the banking system. We get control of the corporations. We get control of the media. We get control of the schools. We get control of the military industrial complex. We get control of Hollywood. We get control of the media. And there's probably one or two that I missed in there, but basically it's another presentation. We can take back everything they've systematically taken from us and bring it back into our control. Oh, here they are right here on the next slide. So the 8 spheres of influence are political, banking, corporations, military complex, the education system, media, the entertainment, and religion. You control those 8 things, you control a society. So if a shadow government controls that, we're slaves. If we control it, we are a free society. And I'm just about almost 1,000,000% sure we are a society that has ended war, that lives in peace and prosperity together, that understands that to harm another is to harm ourselves. So basically, let's go to the next slide, and we're almost done, folks. Patriotism is under attack. A nation divided cannot stand. And then this is something that we used to do every day when I was in school. It's called the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That is the essence of making America great, by simply restoring it to what made it great in the first place. So, as I've been doing lately, I urge you to be informed, to get the essence of everything that you were just presented in this presentation in those 12 simple steps in detail, understanding them, and you can be a part of the army that stands united and takes this nation back and restores it back to what it was intended to be. God told me And he would hold me in the cleft of the rock until the last minute when we were on the very brink of collapse and bring me out. And because in the 56 years that I've studied and traveled and committed myself to this, that I would be able to see things that other people wouldn't see, connect dots that they can't see, that I could view things from a 60,000 fair foot view and make it simple, 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 simple. This is not complicated. They want you to think it's complicated. Look at what I just laid out. 12 simple bullet points. And then I broke it down to 3 simple bullet points. We can take this nation back, but we have to be informed members that stand together, united, one nation under God, with a mission and with the understanding of what's been done to us. And so this book tells you what made America great, how we have lost what made us great, how we are now getting it back, and once we get it back, how we keep it. I urge you to buy this book and join the army of informed citizens who can stand up and become members of the republic that made America great in the first place. With that, thank you. We'll see you next time.